Okay, welcome to our Dune workshop for ETHSF. Sorry, for some reason my computer just decided that it wants to be in the night mode and it wants to sleep. So we're gonna just go with this today. So my name's Jackie. I work as Wizard Relations, so basically developer relations for Dune. I go by Agaperste online. And then I guess a little bit about my background. I used to be a developer for banking, and then decided I want to do more data stuff for traditional finance. And then I found out about crypto, and I'm just like, oh my god, I need to be in this field. And then I just started doing like, when you do Web3 data, you cannot help but run into Dune, basically. So that's how I found out about Dune, and then here I am, working for Dune. So today we're gonna go on a journey about how to build the frontier of Web3 data analytics. Okay, so if you want to follow along, there's like links and stuff. This is the link for the slides itself. So I put some like reference docs links there. I'll leave it on for like a few more seconds to for you guys to scan. Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna put this a little lower. Okay, cool. Looks like we are getting there. Okay, cool. Okay, data, right? So up till now, the data in the old world, or like the Web 2 world, where Harold lives in, right? It's like proprietary. You have to pay for the access, and it's very slow. So think about like, I don't know, like JP Morgan, these big banks. Everything for them is like super close. They want to make sure that they have the best competitive advantage. So like everything is like proprietary for them, like closed. And then you need to pay like Bloomberg. It's like very expensive, right? Like if you have a Bloomberg machine for your analytics. And then if you think about like, oh, there's like always talks about earnings seasons, right? Like you have quarterly reports. So like you don't really have real-time data about like your firm, like the industry per se. So as a result of that, you're doing a lot of repeated work. So that could be like data scientists from like 2 different big banks. They might be working on the same project, but they're not really like collaborating with each other and like learning from each other. And because it's so expensive, right? Like you don't really have access to like good data, so it's like high barrier to entry. And as a result of all of this, it's just like less innovation for humans, for like people who are like interested in Web3 data in general. Crypto, though, on the other hand, we have a shared public backend, right? And then we are able to have a live view of the chain, right? So it's like real time. You can see like what exactly is happening with all the transactions. Anyone can analyze it, real time, flexible, and like it's super collaborative. Like we're all building toward the same goal. So as a result of this, a result of like a super open system, a collaborative system, and like everyone's building on top of each other, right, real time, we would argue that the Anon crypto paper actually has better access to data about their system than say Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan, right? Because of the crypto ethos and the way data is set. So for me personally, that was like one of the big reasons like I got into Web3 data. It's just like, for me, for the first time in history, I see, because like before, it would be like Kaggle. If you're a data scientist, it would be just like, okay, Kaggle, we have like free data, and then we can like train models. But now it's like we have real data about blockchain. It's free, and it's real time, and we can just like, everyone's building toward the same goal, and that just really excited me. Okay, so how does Dune fit in with like the whole Web3 data thing that we're just kind of talking about? So Dune is a leading community-powered crypto data platform. And then our mission is to make crypto data accessible to everyone. So kind of assuming like if you're here, like you're interested about blockchain, and like you hear about like how blockchain is like open and everyone has access. But if you actually like look at it from like a node to like when you can actually produce analytics, the journey is like quite a lot, right? You have to like first harvest the data, and then you have to pre-process it to be the format you want. And if you like do analytics, it's just like quite a lot of work in between actual data and then like the data that's being produced from blockchain. So like what Dune can provide for you is that. So like so basically in aligning with the Web3 ethos, it's open to everyone, it's composable, so you can like kind of like building Lego style, you can build on each other's work. I can show a little bit more later. And then it's very community driven. So like everyone is here to build with everyone else, and we're like all here to help each other. So that is Dune together with like the Web3 ethos. And like a bit more specifically, the way I think about Dune is like 2 component. So you've got the data component, which has like the role tables, the decoded tables in the spellbook, we call them. They're like abstractions that are built on top of the role tables and decoded tables. I'll give you some examples like later on, right after this. So that's like the data side, and there's the community side. So we call our community members wizards because they're just like making magic to the data. So they're like an essential part, because if you think about it, like when GitHub become like really popular, you got like these open source coding that's happening. So like everyone's like open source software, right? And that's like how we got to the space to be where we are today. And we're like so early in the open source data field, right? So like it's like tens of thousands of people, like eventually, hopefully like millions of people are just like here and like building the data analytics, right? So before this, like people don't really think about engineering, we're building data analytics, but we can because we have the same shared backend, and like, why not? Okay, so for the rest of the talk, just gonna kind of like explain how you can use Dune to build the frontier of Web3 data through kind of like 3 different ways. They're not independent, they actually feed into each other, but just categorically speaking, these are the 3 ways. And then we're gonna kind of like go into the angle from NFT marketplace analysis. So we're gonna like try to look at like NFT marketplace. Okay, so data. So just kind of like level setting. Data is produced by on-chain activities, right? So here we're just gonna use a super simple example because we're talking about NFT marketplace. So we're talking about like NFT trading. So simply put, person A just like give person B some money, and person B just like transfers the NFT back to person A, right? Like in a very, very simplified format. That's like what happens. So when this transfer event happens, kind of like the life cycle of it, it's just like an externally owned wallet has to sign this transaction, right? And then the signed transaction would call like certain functions, right? Let's say like a transfer function. And then also, it should also emit an event. Not all of them do, but like let's just say it complied with the standard and emit events. So after this, right, so from the functions in terms of like how it generates data, so the call functions will generate call data along with like the send transaction, and the data will get reflected in one of the role tables called like the transactions table, right, if you're familiar with like the Ethereum architecture. So that's like how the data gets mapped to the action. And then also the surface level transactions will trigger some internal transactions, right? So those data in turn goes into like the traces table that we have, another role table, and then for the emitted events, those are logged in the logs table. So we can kind of like walk through an example. So here on, I have an example of just like on OpenSea, somebody wanted to buy some this KPR token, NFT, and this is like the transaction hash for it. And then so in turn, if I want to look at kind of like the transaction data associated with it, what I can do is like I would grab the transaction hash from it, right? And then I can make this bigger so you can actually see. Okay, so here, remember I was kind of talking about like the 3 types of data. Actually, let me minimize it one more time. So on the left-hand side, you can see that we have like the role table, right? The decoded projects and the spells. So the role tables are just like transactions, traces, and logs. Those like raw data that's being like emitted by the chain, like broadcasted by the chain. The decoded projects come from, like, let's say you have like Uniswap and you have smart contract and those like produce data, but instead of just going straight up to like the transactions, like the role tables, you can actually go to the decoded project to get like better data. And it's like really powerful if you know what you're looking for. And then the spells are just like abstractions built on top of both raw and decoded projects. And let's say like if you want to analyze all the trades in the NFT sector, and then you might not know, so like as a person who might not have like deep backgrounds about how is a trade being constituted, how can you read the trade data basically from like the Solidity code level, right? You can go to, this is like all community gathered data. So we have like these NFT trades table. And then from here, you can already see there's like the amount that's being traded, right? You can also see like the buyer, the seller of it. So like if you start from like the top, we actually have table like this, like spellbook table that you can like start. But those are like kind of like diversion from what we're talking here. So those are 3 types of table that we have. So kind of coming back to the role table example we're talking about. So we can query from Ethereum transactions table, and then we just like filter for the specific hash we're looking at, putting the block number just to like optimize the performance a little bit. And then we can simply see, oh, like from this person to this person, like this is like the transactions that's being triggered, and then this is like the data associated with it. But like as you can see, right, it's very like gibberish. Like you can't really read it. It's just like blah 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 blah. So you need to do more work about this. But yeah, so that's the transactions table, and then I guess quickly show literally the same logic about the traces table. You just query the Ethereum.traces, put the transaction hash, and then you get all the internal transactions that were triggered by this like top level transactions. But again, the problem here is just like, it's still like not very human readable. It requires you to have like a lot of skills to be able to like parse the data here. You can, because in order to get the higher level tables that we talk about, like someone has to be equipped with this knowledge. But that's like the beauty of like the space. Only one person needs to like find that, and then everyone else can benefit from you. So that's like, to me, that's like the beauty of like open source data. Okay, I'm gonna like skip the logs table. You kind of get the idea. These are like the real tables. And then just decode a table, like just to give you an idea. So with OpenSea, right, like they release their like Seaport contracts and stuff. So you can like directly query for the OpenSea Seaport contracts, this particular event order fulfilled. But again, like this requires you to have some skills. You have to like know how to parse these data tables. However, if you just go to Spellbook, so for NFT.trades table that I was just like showing you guys, literally like here, it's like super clean. You can just select the seller, the buyer, amount, original, currency, symbol, and then you get like a really clean results. I don't know. So when I started looking at, I used to flip NFTs, and then when I was like looking at the data to support like what NFT arbitrage opportunities I should look at, it was like so much to just look at the contract level data. But then like once we have this NFT.trades table, it's just like so beautiful. You're able to just do analytics so quickly, and then it almost like, I feel like in a way it's like the community itself is like democratizing the community itself, right? Like everyone's like building toward the higher level table, and then we're just gonna get better and better as an ecosystem. But yeah, so those are the data tables. And then just like quickly a word, the way you get from some like base level tables from transactions traces to NFT.trades, we use this thing called like DBT for data transformation. You can read more. I'm gonna skip this part. I just want to show you guys like there's like a quite nice lineage trace from like this abstraction table. Like how do you get from this abstraction from the lower level to abstraction table? There's like a lineage graph that you can like go look at. But yeah, I'm gonna skip this for today. And if you want to know more about how to contribute to our spellbook, you can check this link out. There's like 3 different guides depending on your style. You can go like digest and do it. So yeah, that's how you can contribute to open source data from like the data perspective. The second perspective is the dashboard, which actually like is tightly coupled with the first one, because without data you can't actually like do dashboards. But just gonna show you guys an example. So here we're like talking about how do we do NFT marketplace metrics, right? So this goes back to the spellbook that I was talking about. So with the NFT.trades table, we have data for OpenSea on like Ethereum and Solana, Magic Eden, LooksRare. I'm not gonna read all of them, but like literally like one person can go contribute to OpenSea on Ethereum, and like someone else can do OpenSea on Solana, and like together we get like this more complete system view of like all the NFT marketplaces, and that's just beautiful. Amazing, right? So then with this table, what you can do is just like, okay, we want to see the total volume in USD term or in transaction count. You can just do that. And the way you do that is like super simple. If you know SQL, it's just, you see like 2 lines of code: select, count, distinct, unique trig ID from NFT.trades, right? So like this really simplifies the process. Like when we think about aggregating like total value locked in like a protocol, it's just like such an insurmountable task, really, right? Because you have to like know what protocols are out there, you have to like aggregate it, blah, blah, blah. But like with a table like NFT.trades, it's like everyone is trying to reach that like complete picture for NFT marketplaces, right? And then as a result, like the people who come after, like we're all benefiting from the like people before us. So we can just write a simple query like this. But obviously, like the caveat is you have to understand what data you're querying. So like you have to understand like the data you're querying only includes these marketplaces that are like listed. But but yeah, as long as you know like what data story you're telling from, I think I guess that's like the trade-off you're doing. Like you have more flexibility, but you also have like more responsibility because you gotta know like what data story you're telling from. But yeah, so with this data set, you can also just do some like visualizations about like the market share from different marketplaces. You can rank them by their total volume. And all this is done by just like writing some simple SQL. And then once you have the SQL ready, let me open one of these. So let's see with this pie chart, right? With this, so you write some SQL, and then once you finish writing that SQL, you can generate a visualization from the results table. And then you can just like add it to your dashboards. I'm flying through all of these. Just feel free to stop by our booth, like if you have any questions, because there's just like quite a lot to cover for our platform. But yeah, so another thing like I quite often do, feeding into like learning from each other, like building in public. So I go to this like discover page for Dune, and then I just look at like what's trending, and like if I recently was like really doing a deep dive on Uniswap, but I wanted to see like what other people already did for Uniswap. So I just like came here and I just did like Uniswap, and then I just searched for it, and then I see like, oh my god, like a lot of people already did similar things, and I can like go like click into each of them, right? And then I just see like what other people have done, and then I just click into that query and I learn from it. So like in this way, I feel like we're also building the frontier of Web3 data through the dashboards. You're learning from each other, you're sharing. It's like all in the public, and they're just like, you're also having fun together. How nice is that? Okay, so lastly, also kind of like feeding into the data side, you can also build the frontier of Web3 data through just apps, right? Through APIs. Okay, so we are still in the beta testing stage of API, but if you want it, come by our booth and we'll give you an API key to test it out. I'm just gonna quickly show you like a demo of how we can do this. Let me just pick something. Let's see, what did I pick over here? Okay, so we're gonna just pull data for this one. So we're pulling data for the 24-hour volume on all the NFT marketplaces that we have on Dune. And it's just like a number. So the way you can use API to pull Dune data is you get this query ID, right? So the first chunk of number after queries. So you copy the query ID, and then I'm gonna come back here. I'm gonna paste it here. Okay, oh, I already did. Okay, so let's see. So nothing really hard. I'm gonna just import the packages that are needed. And then I just wrote like a quick function, kind of like calling our endpoints to get the data. I can walk through that in a little bit, but pretty much like just standard call to get the data. Okay, so first like I'm loading my environment, right, to make sure I can have my Dune API key. Cool, I do, and like make sure, okay, this is like the query that I want to query for, and then cool, I'm just like running this function. So all it does is just like first, okay, authentication, and then calling our like API Dune endpoint and like putting the query ID and then say, okay, let's execute, right? Once it execute, it's gonna like get the execution ID for this particular query ID. So you grab that, and after you grab that execution ID, it has to, because it hits our backend, it's like literally running the query live, like in our like engine. So you need to wait till the query finishes. So here I just like have a simple while loop, just waiting for the query to finish executing. And once the query finished executing, then I basically call another endpoint to get the results for this particular execution ID. And then I just do some simple parsing to get like a pandas data frame. But yeah, we only have one number here, so it's pretty easy. We just get, ta-da, like 25.923. But yeah, like a very, very simple example, but you get the idea. So the way you can like pull data from Dune is just like you write a query about like whatever you want to analyze. And then after that, you grab the query ID, and then with the Dune API key, you just get the result. And then you can feed into whatever application that you want to build. So going back to here, and then this is like the link to API docs if you want to like actually dive into it a little bit more. So today, or this weekend, we are giving 5 times 2,000 bounties to just kind of like for Epic integration with our Dune API. Read more details online about this, obviously. And then you can fill out this form if you want an API key. This is the QR code for the form. But yeah, so lastly, just want to leave with some like inspiration ideas, right? Because like in a hackathon, I think sometimes, unless you came with an idea, it's like quite hard to know what you're building. So with Dune API in the past, what people have done, they built like sector-specific market intelligence. So like the moon blocks, they did like NFT sector market intelligence. So they were just like pulling data from Dune, like basically the empty.trades table that I was showing you guys, and then they feed that into their own app. Or someone else did like a no-code interface. So they basically use Dune API to integrate with like Google Sheet functions. That's something you can also do. Or there's like data transparency tool. So right, like Tornado Cash was just like such a hot topic. So somebody like a team implemented where you can put in your address and like it will tell you like how much closer you are to being like kind of like doxxed by the government. But yeah, so some other things you can do, you can like build trading automation. So because you can get like trading data live from Dune, you can think about how to like transform Web2 things into Web3. So like the same funnel that Web2 analytics often do, you can do the same thing like in Web3, yeah, in the same stack. But yeah, so the data must flow, and happy hacking this weekend. Thank you.